Record to the cloud. All right, so this is the Helm developer call, February 27th, 2020. This call is being recorded, so please speak wisely. The format of the call is we start with announcements for this past week, and then we go around to maintainers and people deliver a stand-up for their status for the previous week. And then we open the floor to any discussion that either maintainers or community has to talk about. So for announcements, we have some of the maintainers like Matt Fisher, Taylor, and Bridget are out today. Is there any other announcements anyone wants to make?
Yeah, I guess the one announcement I'll make is I did a webinar this week on Helm security. Ooh, let me grab it.
Post
I'll
it.
grab a link to it. But it's called Helm Security, a look below deck. The first half an hour, 40 minutes is me talking about security, including things like chart signing and fun things like that, and why you do it, along with stuff inside of charts and all those things. So I'll post it in the notes here.
That's awesome. Look forward to looking at that. We'll go right into stand-up. I can go ahead. This past week, trying to finally tackle a few Chart Museum bugs. There's a S3. There's two issues. One is S3 service accounts have changed from the Go library or something, and upgrading the package to the latest SDK apparently doesn't work, so trying to chase that down. And then an ongoing issue where the cache of storage is the timestamps are being compared are not recognizing the microseconds, so the list of objects is occurring every time depending on the storage backend that does not use microseconds. So trying to get those out and get out a new release of Chart Museum. I'll hand it to Mark.
Okay, so completion, of course. As you might remember, I've posted the solution that Helm 3.1 added for custom completions in Go. I posted it to Cobra, and I'm happy to report that they already replied, and they seem very open to it, and they actually slated it for their 1.0 release. So I'm very happy about that. That'll also remove some code from Helm once it's available in Cobra, so that's nice. I've taken that solution and I've pushed it a little bit further, and I just posted a PR to Helm to fully support completion for the fish shell. I don't know if any of you uses fish, but there's been requests on the kubectl side and on Cobra to support it. So I thought that since we have a solution that could do it, we could be leading the way there. And that's it on my side. Let's go to Adam.
Yeah, not too much to report. Been working on some internal stuff. Did get a chance to review a couple PRs that I saw some notes from Mark. So about a library that needed to be updated, so I went ahead and took care of that. Mark reviewed it and got married. That's about it. Go Farina.
All right, so I was the issue Sherpa person this week, which ends up taking up a lot of time if you spend some good time on that. And so I did issue stuff most of the week, and that's pretty much it. Lots of issues came in. A pattern that I noticed about the issues is there's a lot of support and general questions. You definitely see the tone as, hey, I'm newer to the whole system. I need to figure it out, understand where things are and what's going on. And they may just not natively understand Kubernetes or the intent of certain things. I see more of that now. Okay, that's pretty much what I did. And oh no, I lost the notes. Who hasn't gone? How about Martin?
Yeah, so this week doing bits and pieces, did some PR reviews, did some Did some little bit of issue triaging as well. Yeah, just some bits and pieces like that this week. So I will hand over next to Jacob.
Hey, I've been working on resource ownership and trying to come up with a nice solution. I've got a PR and an issue up in the discussion though to talk about this. Anybody else that hasn't gone? I think that's all the core maintainers.
Looks like it. Wait, no, I see. No, wrong chat. All right, yeah, no, that's everyone. So you can hand it back.
All right, so we'll move into discussion. So on the topics we have, is this Matt Farina about contributing?
Or
it says Bridget Matt Farina.
Okay, so here's what this was a practical guide to contributing. So I've been trying to get feedback and listen, like, how can we build more contributors to Helm, more people to do issue triage and things like that. And if you look through, and I'm not sure why Bridget added this here, but if you look through our docs, they're very technical. You have to have CI, you have to sign things. But if you want to just generally get into contribution in a totally practical, pragmatic way, like, what the heck do I do besides showing up and doing CI and knowing CI checks and knowing I get to sign things? Like, what do I do? That practical how-to guide doesn't exist. And so this was a comment based on a conversation of, hey, we should do that. And I'm not sure why she added it here.
Since that's a more general topic, would it be something that we could link to that's possibly already written as far as contributing to open source? Or
I think this would probably have to be specific to Helm, because there's certain norms and things that we do here that people don't know. You know, there is generally contributing to open source, and a lot of folks don't know that, but we have a lot of our own isms. Like, what do tags mean? What kind of you know, if you go to issues, what are the different branches and the namings around those? If you want to contribute, what special knowledge do you need? You want to get into it? What's an easy way to start? Like, if somebody finds an issue with a function, like Helm inspect, right? I found there was a bug in Helm inspect today. Helm inspect chart. And so if I go into that, like, how does somebody start even digging down to find that bug? Where do they begin in the code? It takes a whole lot of assumptions that you already know things that we are all insiders on, and we know that somebody who's just approaching this may not know. And so outlining that kind of information would be useful to help somebody get started and get into things and understand our norms and how our code works and things like that. That's kind of what I was getting at. It's all about not being philosophical of how open source is, but being practical of somebody showed up here and wants to contribute and get it done quickly and easily.
So I see kind of two different paths on this. One is around like how we handle things at the project level, what you're talking about with like issues and you know, how we tag things and how stuff goes through the pipeline. The other thing is around the actual code base. I think the solution for the code base might be to have better documentation in the code, you know, so focus on like GoDoc kind of thing, and then we can refer to that. So there can be more of an understanding of like what the package is and what it does. I don't think everything is very well documented there. Then it would be easier to keep it up to date. What I'm concerned about with documenting the code base like that is keeping it up to date.
Oh, and I'm not suggesting we document the code base, but maybe we tell people where the entry points are into the code and kind of how our naming strategy, right? Like, if you go into the command folder, right, and you go to Helm, there's a naming pattern there. Just understanding that pattern helps you figure out where the entry point is, right? And knowing to go look there. And it may seem just trivially obvious to us, but it isn't for everybody. And some of those little things that we're very used to, just figuring out what that is and documenting. And I don't know exactly what it is. I'm just trying to come up with things, but trying to figure out what that is and documenting a practical guide, I think would lower the barrier to people being able to navigate the code and get started as contributors. And that's the hope. Because it would be great to have more contributors and more people who can come and be maintainers too.
Okay, yeah, so I'm probably not the best person to answer this since I was on Helm from day one. Maybe some of the people who have come in like partway through.
Maybe
there's
I
quite a
can-
few people on this call that might have a few comments as far as where they struggled and what might be useful.
As the newest one, maybe I can give my opinion. So Helm is really well designed, and it made it easy to kind of understand. A couple of things that maybe would have helped to understand is maybe the differentiation between the command pack, although it's mentioned in the doc, but the command package being, the command line and where the API comes in. So the PKG or the package. So that differentiation, the idea that, because I saw somebody hit that problem, when you're calling multiple Helm commands one after the other, there's no persistence between each other, right? They're completely independent. Everything gets reinitialized every single time. That took me a while to kind of understand that from even a Cobra perspective. So I think that's valuable. So when you think about designing something, that helps. The entry point that Farina mentioned, I think that's good. That everything starts in, of course, it's the main program, but the helm.go file, and then root.go also has a certain importance. That would help. Besides that, I think things were well separated, and I was able anyway to navigate pretty well.
So as far as if we were to document like exactly what the command package is and the package, it's kind of weird. Would it have been helpful, like right when you open up the file, command helm.go, if it was in the header there, or even like a doc.go that explained like what the purpose of command was and what should be contained in it. And then if we have a package, as in root directory pkg/doc.go, even though there isn't any Go files in there, but then we could always refer to people to the Go doc, and then it will have the documentation formatted there, as well as just have it like in the code, because that's really when you would need that documentation, is when you open up the code.
Here's a question. How do I know which code file to open? When you open up the code, how do you know where to begin opening up the code?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking is like what would be easier? That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, I mean, may I make a suggestion here? Because we could go on and on and on about this for a very long time here. And suggestion, I grabbed a couple of things that were just talked about, and I'm throwing them on the issue. But I think this is something we should do outside of this meeting, because we can talk on a lot. But think about those little things, like you said, documented in the code, but that begs the question of, they've known how to open this file and how to get there. How does somebody know to get that particular file open to even know the information you're going to put into it, right? It begs little things, and it comes to the whole entry point. And where do you document the entry point for contributions? And that's why I was just saying, a practical contribution guide that tried to do this. And there's a comment here, we talk about the SDK and GoLib in this advanced Go SDK thing. That's not in contributing. That means as a consumer, I've decided I need to consume this, and so I ended up in the docs over there. But if I'm coming at the docs from a contribution standpoint, will I ever end up in those Helm docs to even understand that structure? It's little things like that. Like, we may have documented it, and it may be buried somewhere, but if somebody wants to start contributing to Helm, what's their entry point, and what does that look like to get them started? The job they're trying to do is contribute to Helm. How do we make that very easy for them? And we may have things out there, but they may not be organized or presented in a way that makes their life easier, but we know it's out there. That's what I'm getting at with this.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and moderate the call here. Yeah, let's do another one-off about this, maybe next week. So I don't know if someone wants to help organize that. But let's move on. So we have GPG signing Cube 116 APIs, that's Mark. CRDs, that's Martin. Does anyone have urgency on any of these? You got like 10 minutes. No, we can just go straight to GPG signing.
All right, that's me. So I'll try and be quick on it. Helm itself does OpenPGP, but GPG changed things, such as they now use a keybox file, which is their own format. It makes operations and things like that faster, and you can do with larger things, but OpenPGP can't read it anymore. It also doesn't work with things like YubiKeys and hardware keys. You've got to drop into GPG for those kinds of things, and that's not built into Helm itself. So we tell people, go use Butcher's plugin, right? But that only works in POSIX systems, Mac, Linux, things like that. If you're on Windows, you're out of luck. So this is the kind of thing that we could bake into Helm itself to say, instead of using OpenPGP, drop down to GPG. That's what actually Git itself does, is they drop down to GPG and they give you the ability to do that. But you can control the commands over there. So if you wanted to replace it with something that wasn't GPG, that was another PGP thing, then you could. And so I'm suggesting Helm does that some way. There's an issue on it. Ooh, I wish I had that offhand. And I'm not sure which way we should go about it, but that's what I'm kind of looking for feedback on. First of all, is everyone okay if we drop down to GPG? Is there anybody who's got a problem with it? All right. The ways I was looking at it were to either use a flag or a configuration option to do it. So it would always be backwards compatible. I drop the issue in now to it, and I'll put it over here. I've documented two ways on here that come to mind. One is based on how Git does things. And the other is just adding a flag and doing it. But this is kind of what I'm thinking. Adding configuration would be adding a configuration system to Helm, so it would be much more. But feedback on this I would really appreciate, because I'd love to get this going and not have to have a plugin all the time. And I may be the only person on this call who actually does any signing or cares about signing and verification. But if you heard Justin Kapos talk about, he listed all these organizations that have been, their customers have been basically hacked or gotten into because these organizations, through their software update processes, cause their customers and their end users to be hacked. And it was major projects like the Debian project, right, back in the day. And so security of this stuff is important to me, even though I know cloud native security doesn't matter to most people and most stuff runs entirely insecure. It is one of those things we need to move in the direction on. So if you could review this, I'd appreciate it, and I'll shut up now.
Oh, we lost Josh.
Sorry, no, I'm booted from my room. Okay, so really quick, does that affect any, like, if people are publishing with OCI, that doesn't negate using Notary or something like that, right?
It doesn't. Notary has its own limitations, and we have to go figure that out. For example, a chart or an artifact or anything in one repository versus another repository, is the signature is different because the hashes change. And so that creates problems in and of itself, because you can't just take a package and move it from place to place to place and still maintain the same signature chain. That's a shortcoming in the current Notary.
Okay.
And Helm does not have that shortcoming in its current signing and provenance methodology. So we should go solve this for the registry side. I don't know the right answer right now, though.
Okay. Okay. Moving on, we got Mark with Cube 116 issues.
Okay, so okay, I'm not on mute. Cube 116 gives problems because it's removed APIs. Jacob, I think, is working on that. I was just hoping to get a little bit of confirmation that what's the recommended procedure right now. From reading all the issues and all the discussions that go on, and I don't think there's been an agreement on what to do, which, by the way, I think we should kind of guide our users into what do you do in this case? Because I think Helm is the problem, partially. I think that when you have a cluster that's older than 116, and you have Helm v2, I think what you need to do is fully upgrade all your deployments to get rid of these old APIs, and then you can move up the cluster to 116. That's the approach I'm going to be taking. But for those that might be more versed in the topic, is there a better way? Do we have a solution?
I think there may be one, which is part of what I'm working on would enable. There's a proposal to have a commandeer kind of plugin or subcommand for Helm that would allow you to just import existing resources into a release and allow Helm to act against those resources. So if you are updating from Helm 2 to 3, you would be able to, like, on a per release or resource basis, run commandeer. So that's one option. Maybe that wouldn't scale terribly well, or we might need to write a tool to, like the Helm 2 to 3 plugin that does that. Specifically with the issue of updating to newer API versions, though, there is also a bug right now in Helm 3 that doesn't allow you to update a resource because the Kubernetes API will serve up the same resource from multiple API versions, but Helm's release tracking metadata only sees a single API version. So it sees that as a brand new resource that already exists in the cluster, but it's not tracked by the release. My PR fixes that.
That's a problem in V2 as well.
Yeah, it's not a 2 to 3 issue, Jacob. It's basically the APIs have been deprecated in the cluster, and if somebody then tries to upgrade from about 116 on, where that old deprecated API isn't, then you're caught between a rock and a hard place. So, and I leave this to Adam because he's most experienced in it, but what Mark said earlier was there is one way around it, that if you did upgrade to the newer version of the API before you upgrade the cluster, then you're okay where that's still available. Otherwise, then you're caught with the manifest stuck inside it. But Adam, you had your hand up.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is a versioning issue with Kubernetes. It's not at all a Helm issue. The only way around it would be if we could use multiple versions of their client, or modify the resources, which is something we have explicitly not wanted to do, because Kubernetes deprecates APIs. So if you're trying to install a deprecated API into, or a object that has been removed from Kubernetes, like even if you use kube control, it's not going to work. They're just unsupported anymore.
The issue that we can't upgrade explicitly in the Helm chart, though, because
that's completely different.
Right, like that's a bug if like running the diff causes Helm to error out because it can't read the old version, right?
Yeah, we might be able to change the diffing process to be able to handle that. But as far as the issue of Kubernetes not handling old API versions, that's a Kubernetes thing.
Right. Yeah, that is a Kubernetes thing. But just to when you migrate to 116, Kubernetes keeps working. And if I were to apply an updated YAML, it would work. But it's Helm that's blocking me. But what Jake had said, because or you guys said, it's remembering that it installed an old version and it doesn't have that layer of compatibility that Kubernetes has. So this is, if we could fix that, then suddenly everything would work.
Yeah, so if I did this with raw kubectl and Kubernetes manifest, it would be fine. But if I do it through Helm, it's broken.
Yep.
Let me just, I'll just cut at that because we don't have much time left. And that ultimately is the problem. So there are changes we can make with Helm that will enable the user to move forward, because I can already do it with raw kubectl.
So just to conclude, I think this is a big issue. We should try to.
It is.
That.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So 11:59. So I think we should do assignments. I wrote down I can do some triage this week. There are 2 days that I can't do it, but so I would appreciate any help. But anyone want to do moderating next week? Adam? Okay.
I can take on notes.
Okay.
I think, yeah. So Josh, you're going to do issue triage. What days can't you do?
Yeah. Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually I'm a no GitHub. So if I could get some help next Tuesday, that'd be great.
Is there an open issue that anybody has for that Kubernetes 116 thing?
I think I triaged one this week.
Okay,
That if I look at it now, that's the problem. Now that you say that, that's the problem. But somebody else may have a better issue that describes it, because I didn't even realize that problem until we were talking about it here.
If I could just really quickly, some upgrade issues are solved by my PR, but I really need eyes on it. If we could get, I know Butcher's planning to look at it, but it's a pretty big change to the way Helm handles release metadata and ownership guarantees. So we really need multiple eyes on it.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
I wonder, overall though, Jacob, I wonder is we need to fix the inherent problem first. So maybe, yeah, I'll send on the issue to Adam as well, the one that clearly gets it as well. Okay.
Yeah, the upgrade airing out is a separate bug.
So I think the resource limitation stuff, maybe we need to push to next week, or Jake, if you want to quickly talk about it.
Yeah, if so, the my PR basically it just allows Helm to act on resources if they have a new annotation. We can also choose to use existing labels, but I think a new annotation is what we need in order to not call this a breaking change. And this would also give us a mechanism to enforce that ownership of a resource is exclusive to one Helm release, as opposed to right now it's possible to get into a state where you've got multiple releases acting on the same resource if they've been told, if they contain the metadata that allows them to do that. So that's going to be important going forward if we implement something like that commandeer subcommand as well. So I think we can just follow up asynchronously on those two issues.
Cool. All right. We'll see you all online and next week. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.